Hey guys, how you all doing? So today we're going to have a look at Celtic Shadows. I backed this when this came out on Kickstarter. I think it was April of May of last year. It's being published by Menagerie Press. I'll leave a link in the description where you can find this. It's going to be on ttrpg as a PDF and print on demand. I got both. I just have the PDF here we can look at, so it's easy to record. But yeah, so this is done by William, and I'm going to butcher his full name. William Baronje, and then you have Brian O'Doherty. Now, Brian O'Doherty is the guy behind Rune and Relic Press, the campaign set in Age of Formoria. We've looked at that previously before, and we've looked at Skills and Learning just the other day. So the thing with this book is about 100 pages of this are actually adventures. I'll just have a look at one or two here. Don't worry about how you pronounce some of these words. I'll pronounce them. I'm going to get mostly right anyway, because there's different dialects for any of the Gaelic words. So we'll just have a look at one or two of them here, just briefly. The rest of this is actually going to be broken up into a little bit of background on kind of setting this is. It is a setting. There's also new Bestiary stuff, which you can plug into any game you're playing. There's new classes as well you can plug in. Yeah, it's fairly well done. This came out before Brian set up Rune and Relic Press and created Formoria Dark Age. And the handy thing about these adventures, there's going to be 17 here. You can plug them into any campaign, but they go really well with Formoria. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a quick look at Stone and Harp Adventure and the Hidden Tower. So you can see here the maps are very well done. They're beautifully created. I'm just going to read the plot device of Stone and Harp. The Grey Snow clan of Formorians has a village of half a dozen simple huts and an array of fishing nets. Unknown to the Formorians, the large painted stone that provides the village summertime shade is a dormant stone giant waiting to be awoken by the dulcet sounds of she song. So up here it shows the map, the layout of everything, has it all marked, 6 locations. So these adventures are from level 1 to 9, I think it might be 10, so around there. The only thing about it is they're not actually labelled to say this is a level 1 to 2, this is level 3 to 4, this is level 1 to 2, or this is level 2 to 3. You kind of have to work it out, but it's going to go more or less in order, but there's 17 of them. The next one we'll have a quick look at is the Hidden Tower. So here's the Hidden Tower. As you can see, the maps here are very well done. There's lots of details. This is a much bigger one. There's 27 or 28 different areas to go to. So we're just going to read basically the description of what's going on in this sort of like plot device. So the first bit of Gaelic we're going to have is these two words. The first word is Maher, which means mother, and Huic, which means like squid or tentacle. So it's literally the mother squid, which is quite appropriate because the Formorians in the Irish and Gaelic myths, they basically come from under the earth and under the sea. So they're a bunch of twisted creatures and monsters essentially. So Morcha Huic, a Fomorian sorceress, and her Fomorian warband recently overran a she tower. Now she are basically a type of fairies. Again, there's lots of fairies in Irish mythology. Fairies have always been a part of Irish mythology. They're anywhere from being very helpful to shy to mischievous. People think of like leprechauns, which is basically an American invention, but we embrace it because it's a bit of fun. So yeah, we would have had fairies like for everything. So it would have been like basement fairies, which that's where people kind of think where the leprechaun idea came from. But yeah, so the Hugh petrified the tower's master, but the Fomorians could not breach the underchambers wardened against Fomorians. Shuig's warband drunkenly reveals the sorceress sulks and seeks entrance to the Sheed's treasure vault. If the opportunity arises, Huig attempts to trap all the mortals into raiding the Sheed's vault, which unknown to the Fomorians holds the animated skull of Fealcha, as she is spirit. Also, Hewitt controls her warriors via threats, violence, creating tension between Hewitt, her Formorians, and Fahi's skull, and the heroes. So that's the idea. So there's lots of stuff like this. There's 17 different adventures. Again, they've been leveled from level 1 to 9 or 10. So yeah, we're actually going to get into the other part of the book, which is at the beginning. Celtic Shadows takes place in the Isle of Arran during the mythic period of Irish history, before the arrival of Christian missionaries. The correspondence of mythic Red Branch and the Fenian circles of Irish mythology, and the contents herein heavily borrow from these sources. We put no specific Gregorian calendar date. The Gregorian calendar is the calendar that we use today. There's no real time they're going by. But it says around the Iron Age, you could put it in, which is around the time that Formoria setting is placed. So I think it'd be good to do with that. To use that, I mean. In ancient times, the Isles were inhabited by the Formorians. Then came the Fairbog, who pushed the Formorians into the north and divided land into provinces. Next came the Tuatha De Danann, who came from the sea on silver ships. Some say they came from the womb of the world. The Thua were powerful and they had great magic. They warred against the Fairbog, pushed them into the hinterlands and wilds of the land of Éire. Finally, the Milesians, who came from the south over the seas, arrived. After much fighting, the Milesians and the Dudain agreed to divide the land. The Milesians took the world above, and the Dudain took the world below, the outer world, which they entered through the Shades, sacred mounds, whose entrances are protected by magical mist. There's going to be different factions within the game. You have the Formorians, they're basically the evil, demonic creatures. They come from under the earth and under the sea. In legend and myth, Balor, he's basically a one-eyed giant. He's like the leader. He's like the bad guy, the big bad. You have the Fairbogs, the Tuatha De Danann, the Milesians, the different Celtic clans, Ulid, Connachta, Lingia. You also have Éireann, other clans, small clans like that. You're gonna have the Fenians, or Finia, I mean. They're basically like the human warrior society, the warriors. Then it's going to go into society and culture. Mythical Éireann is a land of warrior tribes, druids, fairies, fairbogs, and Formorians. Young warriors fight for renown and the hero's portion of the next feast. Steal cattle, forge alliances. Éireann's customs are different from those later in medieval periods. You're going to have slavery and oppression, and you're going to have basically oral tradition. There's not going to be much writing. Writing would be very primitive, if at all. Also, if you want to use this part as a setting, like we're going over, you're going to have to take into account, magic users are basically going to be the druids. Yeah, that's if you want to go about this. Again, you can just take the adventures, plug them in, and use the monsters and beasts and stuff like that. Champions and war. War among the Celtic people was a lethal sport, not conquest. Conflicts could be skirmishes, raids, harassments, theft, and more. Conflicts could also be used to solve basically problems between two tribes or groups of people. If they're fighting over something. You're also going to have horse and chariots. So you're going to have the religion here. It's going to worship different gods. So the Tuatha De Danann are seen as gods. So some of them here are the Morgan. She is the god of battle. She's also commonly will show up as basically a giant raven or a crow. You have Dega. He's kind of like Odin or Zeus. Then you'll have Lua. He is often depicted having a big spear, a glowing spear of light. Brigid for fertility. Balor for famine. He's also he's like the opposite of Dega. So you have Wealth. Wealth is basically going to be used. Coins are not really a thing at the time. Again, this is going to be if you're going to be using this as a setting. So you'd be trading goods, objects, slaves, land, cattle, like it says here. And it talks about bondsmen. So captives or criminals, they may be indentured tied to the land as serfs. Bondsmen are not free men, but skillful bondmen may earn enough to pay their bond and become free. Vikings had a similar sort of thing as well, actually. Coinage, it talks about the same thing we just talked about there. Kings and chiefs, there's going to be different clans and different groups, and they're all going to have their own leaders. Kings do show up, and if you want, you could plug them in this pretty easily, and they end up taking up like corners of the country. You have Brehon law. The Brehon is usually a judge, usually a type of druid. So in this case, it would be a magic user of some sort, who understands the laws of the land and the history. This person isn't necessarily going to be a chief or a king either. They can be, but not necessarily would be. So yeah, this is just to give an idea of what's going on. We're not going to go over everything like it has here, stuff about hygiene. At the time, the Celts were very proud about their looks. So their hair were always going to be clean, the beards are always going to be clean, they're going to be braided, knotted. Vikings, again, were very similar when they came along. Inheritance. So the men go first, and then it goes to the daughters if he has no sons. If he does have any living sons, they get everything. I'm going to talk more about justice here. So you have the honor price, which is essentially your honor as a man or as a person is basically taking a hit. You're known for being like a thief, someone who can't be trusted. Maybe like you might not be able to buy things or trade things from people. You have blood prices, which is going to be that could be done through combat. You might have to be having something take from you, like your animals. They could be slaughtered. They could be given to others as a part of that. You have fosterage, again. That's going to be more with the clan leaders and high-ranking officials within a society. Fosterage, it would often be used to trade, say, a boy to another family to raise him, and he might end up marrying one of the daughters. Has clothing and equipment, and it talks about different events. So when you're going to a new region, you can roll off and you can have something go on. Like, say we roll intrigue. What's intrigue? A secretive plot, 1 to 2, it's a fraction. Meeting to undermine a leadership. 3 to 4, it's locals working on a hidden agenda. Or 5 or 6, a direct attempt to overthrow the regional leaders. This could be in a town, it could be in a village, it could be just a large scale attack on like the chief. Yeah, so it's just again more spark stuff here and random encounters. So if you're in the lowlands, you roll on that table, highlands, swamps, coastal, forests, lakes and rivers, and it's going to get into some of the classes here. So you have the druid, and what weapons they have. They're a lore keeper. You're familiar with curses, fairy charms, and other secrets of the land. You gain advantage when dealing with magic lore. It has the talent tables here, spells known by level, and here are the spells that you're able to take. You have a berserker, brawny warriors, spear maidens, and dwarven goblin slayers. You know, it's going to be like similar to a fighter. Has a savage skill. You gain a +1 attack when dealing damage with versatile or two-handed weapons. In addition, add half your level to these rolls. And you can use an ability to go berserk for 1d4 rounds. While berserk, you're going to add 1d4 to your melee attack damage. And it's going to have your talent tables yet again. Celtic campaigns, it's going to give you an idea of how you can run this in a more concise way. So replace wizards and priests with druids. Add berserkers, humans only. Goblins and orcs are Formorians. Other ancestries are she, which are going to be like the fairy type people. So you can say like your dwarf is a type of she. Remove coins and use goods for barter and trade. Metal armor, chain and plate is rare. Crossbows, longbows and great swords are rare as well, if non-existent. Range weapons are considered cowardly. So you could use javelins as well because they can be used up close. That's just me saying that. And it has campaign ethos, focused on overland adventures, less underground exploration, which I think you could put some underground exploration in it, but it's going to have a lot of Formorians in there because that's sort of like their dwelling. because they come from the earth, they come from undersea as well. And it's carousing tables for itself, if you want to use these in any game, because they're just cool ideas. Maybe if you want to just use this in a normal Shadowdark game, if you pick this up, you like the carousing table here, maybe you go to a nice big town or a village and they have just an interesting sort of vast culture, you can use this table. Again, you use this with anything anyway. The carousing outcomes here, and then it comes down back to the different adventures. So what we're going to do now is going to look at the Bestiary. So the stat blocks is going to contain stuff for warriors, fire blocks, Fomorians, giants, she, and magical beasts are included. Each of these creatures is going to have 3 different types. You're going to have a minion version, a hero version, and an epic hero version. So minions have no special ability or roll 1d6 on the table. You'll see that all now in a minute. You're going to have heroes, which are going to have 1d10 and have 1 roll. And you're going to have grey heroes, which are going to have 2 rolls and 1d10. We're going to go down here now, and it's going to have Celtic warriors. It's going to give you some example names of famous Celtic warriors. So the first one is Cuchulainn. He is known in Irish myth as, he's kind of like a Hercules type character. He's exceptionally powerful. He's an amazing fighter. He took down these giant hounds with a hurl and a schlitter, which is like our national sport, one of our national sports. It's 3,000 years old, so that gives you an idea of how old it is. Yeah, so you have Queen Boudica. She was a Celtic warrior from England. She fought and rised up against the Romans, I believe. The last one here we'll have is Dermot O'Dunia. And most Celts were known for their fighting ability alongside their chief. So it has their stats here. Rage once a day, minor ability. It's going to have their ability over here. Celtic hero, epic hero. You're going to have the firebogs or furbogs, however you want to say it. It's going to have their stats along here again, the rolling chart. So we have the Fomorians. They're going to be twisted, grotesque monsters. Again, they come from the earth, they come from under the sea. They can look and be almost anything. You kind of think them as demonic. That's probably the best way to think about. That's probably the best way to think of them as. We're going to have the stats here again. And then we're going to have the giants. In this, that sort of has them down as sort of like giant, monstrous, ogre type creatures, or orcs type creatures. They're considered a blight on the land, like it says here. Giants are not firebogs. Even at casual glance, firebogs are crafters and care for the woods they dwell in. Firebogs have been sort of taken over by D&D and turned into giants essentially, but in reality they were not all like that. They looked more like people. And then we're going to have the she here. So they're going to be our fairies again. There's going to be different kinds. And again, the good thing with all these, we have the table to roll on. So if you want as a GM, just say you had 4 normal she show up and 1 hero she show up, you could have it so each of them, you roll something different. So they're all going to end up being a little different from each other. So that's one way you can make them stand a bit more if you wish. And of course you're going to use monsters from the core Shadowdark rulebook and any other monsters you want. Again, remember, you don't have to use the Celtic setting if you do not want. You take the adventures, you can take some of these monsters and creatures and classes and use them any way you want. Magical beasts, white stag, brown bull. This will make them all different from each other, the ability tables. And of course if you don't want to roll, you can just, choose the ability you think would be best suited based on the adventure you're running. If it's your own one of these you're plugging in, because you're going to assume that, like, if you're, say you have a Formoria you're fighting against and they're doing a task like at the tower, at the hidden tower we looked at earlier, we're probably going to take Fomorians, which are best suited at a role, maybe tougher guys, like maybe Ironhide, so half damage from slashing and piercing weapons. Something like that. Maybe more than would are more likely to have that ability. So yeah, that's basically it. So we'll go up to the top here, and so again, this is Celtic Shadows by Menagerie Press, co-written by Brian O'Doherty. He's the guy who, again, created Formoria the Dark Age. That is his own personal game that he's been running for like 25 years. You can find it over for Shadowdark, co-written by William of Menagerie Press. I'll leave in the description where you can find it. It'll be on ttrpg. I'll attach my affiliate link if you want to use it. You get this on PDF or print on demand. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. Also, if there's anything you want me to look at in the future, or if I might currently have it as well, let me know. Leave it in the comments. And yeah, that's it, guys. I'll talk to you all again later. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and like I said, comment below. I'll talk to you all again soon.